Hello, everyone. Hi. This is a little off balance. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Just getting this set up. You see my Kanban board behind me, and that is a way of organization, which I think is in keeping with what we're doing today. I'm sorry, I'm just getting this all up the right way, and it still seems off balance, but hopefully we can talk. Come on in, everyone come on in. There's plenty of room. I think we got a lot to talk about tonight, don't we? It's a great episode. It's one of those episodes when there was a bombshell, and I didn't really realize how much of a bombshell it was, potentially, till after. It was one that I did curse out loud when I heard it. All right, so everyone's coming in, come on in, and go ahead and post where you're signing in from. I see in Melbourne. It's 2 p.m. in Melbourne, I learned today. Melbourne, where else we've got? This is Twin Cities. I'm coming in from Shakopee, suburb of Minneapolis. We've got Denver, we've got New York, we've got Chicago, Pittsburgh, Maryland. Someone else in Minneapolis, Lake Tahoe, San Francisco, Lake Tahoe. I was just on vacation there. St. Louis, Indiana, East Tennessee. Woo, East Tennessee. That's where Lincoln's family was from. North Carolina, San Diego, Michigan. All right, we're coming on in, come on in. Just a reminder, either you flip left or flip right, and you can share this with other people, your followers on Twitter, anyone on Facebook, email, and spread the word around. The hearts that you're seeing are just approval. There's nothing romantic about them, so feel free to push the hearts if you approve, if you like it. Hearts are the currency that we use here on Periscope, and it allows this to be seen by other people. And thank you so much for everyone who's sharing. Thank you so much. Come on in. And I'll try to recap a little bit, so if you come in a little later, it won't be a problem. I'm going to turn this light down a little. I know there's a glare. Wait, let's try it this way. Let's see if this is better. Now, maybe that's a little better. This is a little off balance. We're going to be a little bit more interactive this time. We're going to move around. Here's the format. Again, thanks for being here. Periscope is a live sharing device, but there will be archived stuff shared. I recently shared the one I did last night. It's on YouTube. So if you put in discussing Truth and Justice pod or something like that, it should come up. And also on Catch, which takes my Periscope stuff and provides it. So if you miss that, you can see it then, or you can share it with other people. That's the way it works. We're going to talk about the Undisclosed Addendum 13. Then we're going to do my special announcement. Then we're going to have Q&A. And I'm happy to have any comments you want to put, especially because other people can see them. I'm probably not going to be able to respond to them because I tend to get distracted, and it doesn't do a very good job for me. The result suffers. So what are we talking about today? And again, I'm Brendan Kenny. I'm a lawyer in the Twin Cities. My Twitter is Kenny, Kenny, Brendan, Kenny, and that's just probably the best way to contact me and a good way to follow any of this Periscope or other stuff I'm doing. I've kind of got some things planned. It should be good. So someone says the connection is in and out. Let me know if that's a problem. My Wi-Fi should be working okay. So I'm not saying it's you. I'm not being judgmental, but it could be your phone. But let me know if other people are having the same problems. Feel free to post that, and I can figure out what's going on. So we're going to talk about Addendum 13. I'm going to talk briefly about the Balal situation, and then I'm going to talk, we're going to do something really interactive. Are you okay with that? We're going to do something really interactive with his Baltimore County documents, because that's the bombshell I'm talking about. I did curse out loud when I heard it. Luckily, I was in the car. The kids weren't there. And so I cursed out loud because it seemed weird. And when I looked at the Baltimore County document, it seemed weirder. I have some thoughts to share on that, but I think this is we've been talking about crowdsourcing these things, and they specifically asked on Undisclosed for some crowdsourcing about these Baltimore, I'm just going to call them crime forums. And I think I might be able to help out with that. So if you're okay with being a little bit interactive, this will be before Q&A, but I'm gonna get your thoughts, see them, and write some notes up on the wall. And thank you for someone just saying how many more people are watching this, and I really appreciate it. Okay, so the thoughts about Balal. I liked the beginning of this. Oh, hi, Robbie. I like the beginning of this Undisclosed today because I think that this was really important for Rabia to talk about this because, believe it or not, I've run into this just talking about the case with other people. They said, oh, why isn't Rabia asking Balal about, what went down? And maybe this is a lawyer thing, but when you've got someone who is off the radar for 15 years, doesn't return calls, doesn't do anything, that says to me they're resistant to talk. And so I'm not going to come at somebody like that and say, hey, confess your crimes to me, confess your sins to me, and I'll hold you in judgment. Really, I'm going to do whatever I can to get that person to talk at all, because it might be that they even have an intention of harming me and harming my client, but what they have to share could be important. Yeah, so I just got a text message from someone, a friend of mine from high school who's following this, and he asked me as much as I could read from the text to see if what's going to be discussed, if they're going to say how Jay found the car. So I think we did touch upon that in Undisclosed, but if anyone has thoughts on that. All right, so Rabia talks to these people in the community. And basically it says, look, this was a sketchy situation. There's a reason the guy doesn't want to talk. And here's why I didn't ask him directly what went down. So let's just say that hopefully we can just kind of put that to the side and say there's no covering for Balal or the Muslim community or something like this, that he's a key person, and anyone in their right mind, a lawyer, would just want to get that person to say something, because anything they say is going to be more helpful than what came out at trial, which was nothing. Let's go back to Susan Simpson's rule. Susan Simpson's rule for this case, and I think it's a good rule of thumb, is if some evidence didn't come in the initial trial, we can know almost for a certainty, maybe not a factual certainty, but a moral certainty, that evidence wouldn't have been helpful to the prosecution. So I think that's something we want to say. And again, Rabia said it's helpful that he says he would testify for Adnan. So I'm not bashing Balal. I'm not saying anything about him. I'm just trying to say that I just want to affirm Rabia and everyone that they're doing the right thing. They're going at this the right way. You don't scare off a witness. And here's the funny thing: can we, as he did to the grand jury, can we at least say that isn't this some evidence of the idea of this all-powerful, intimidating Rabia who took poor Asia McClain, and out of fear, Asia made up this whole lie because she was intimidated by Rabia. So can we at least put that to rest? Guilters, not that guilters on here, I don't even like that term. People who think that Adnan is guilty and are absurdly certain of that, hopefully they can be quiet about that for now. All right, documents. Let me give you a little background, or if you didn't listen to the show or you just want a refresher. What struck me was the specific document that had a stamp on it, February 23rd, I think, 1999, and I'm going to show it to you. So we're going to go on a little field trip. Are you okay with that? I'm going to switch this over. We're going to look at this document right now and walk through it together. Is everyone okay about that? All right. Okay. Let's see what I can do. All right. Whoa, this is super, super, super sophisticated. You can't even see anything. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? All right. Well, I'm gonna liberate this from its selfie prison, which, as I said last night, I took considerable blow to my pride to actually get a selfie, but I did it for you people. So, all right, here's what we have, and I'm sorry it's not perfect. This is as good as it gets. So we have this thing. This is the Form 11 supplement, and you can find this on Undisclosed, so you can follow along with me and see it for yourself. It's under Documents on Undisclosed. We have this Form 11 supplement, you see. I want you to notice something about this and compare it to, and I'm going to turn this over to what I have, the rest of this. Oh no, we can do it right here. I'm sorry. We have this supplement, and you'll notice it's typewritten, and I shouldn't say typewritten. it's clear to me that this was done on some sort of computer, some sort of word processor. So we have that. Let me see what else is different. You'll see down here that the screening factors, just see that this is something that is done by word processing. It looks a little funky about the lines. It looks like there could have been some odd things done with scanning or cutting and pasting. So that's our document. And this specifically is the one that says they searched Hayes' computer, which I was wondering about for a long time. And I want to read you what it says. Okay, I'm not trying to be critical of the detective. And this guy is Detective Donald Bird. Oh, it's Bird. I thought it was Boyd. Odd. Well, I was going to say something about Boyd, but it's the wrong person. So the little Google research I did is of no value. So you can look him up yourself. And I'm not criticizing his abilities, but it's not well written. Here's what it says. The underside is assisted the homicide team with searching the computer of a missing person. And police officers love capitalization. I'll just say that. They capitalize for no good reason. It is believed that the computer may contain information that will help locate the missing person. The missing person, and I want you to hear the quotes, used America Online, AOL, to communicate on the internet, therefore, the computer may contain email or other types of files. And I'm just going to switch because I don't think you can see anything. Email or other types of files that may lead to further information. The computer was tagged and brought back to the Computer Crimes Unit for forensics. Investigation to continue. So we have that. I'm just going to tell you some of the other odd things on that. The date is February 8th, 1999. It says received February 24th, 1999. And, it's weird. And is there a way? Oh, there we go. Sorry. If anyone's commenting, I can see them now. I couldn't for a while. But I want to show you something here. You see where it says that stamp, February 24th, 1999. And just keep in mind that that stamp is not something magical. It is something that could be manipulated. So that doesn't mean that that actually happened on that date. And you see, though, in the bottom left-hand corner, there's something that looked like it was some sort of stamp. It's not there anymore. And again, I'm not getting all conspiratorial. I'm just looking at a document and telling you things that I would want to look into. Someone says, mine from 1991 still exists. AOL existed in 1991? Amazing. Okay, so we're looking at the screening factors. We're also looking at, you see case status? Well, isn't that interesting? It says open. It says open. And you'll know that the last one in here, the last page in this file, is dated February 12th, 1999, which the one below was ostensibly dated February 8th, and it says closed, right? So we have that. And I want to say that you'll notice also that the last one is handwritten. Every other piece of paper in this, I don't know if you want to call it document. Someone says detective name is Donald. How convenient. That's hilarious. I don't know if it's a document because we don't know whether it's connected, whether there's anything missing, is handwritten. This one is typed. I want you to see something else. So you see that homicide is here. You'll also see that it says victim's name, last, first, middle, says Baltimore County, Maryland. As far as I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, on all 13 of the other pages, it actually says the victim's name, not Baltimore County, Maryland. The thing here says follow up versus the others were marked continued, I think. Let's see what else. Oh, one thing to look into, and I did quickly, but I didn't find it. It says date original report, December 29th, 1998. So there could be that here. Well, we'll go over to the board and we'll talk about the possibilities together. I don't want to put ideas in your mind. But those are the things that strike me. Let me just see if there's anything else. I was hoping that somewhere on this form there was a year of when it was revised. Because typically, law enforcement forms, and I know this from experience, have the year they were revised. So we want to find out how long this form was in effect. I'll just tell you some other things we're going to want about this. We're going to want to find out about this when... how this was done, what kind of program it was done on, because we know it was done electronically. Was it something like a Word document with fill-in fields? Are any of those fields ones that auto-generate? Because that was one thing that occurred to me. Is it possible that perhaps in the field for screening factors, there's an auto-generation that goes on, and that means that there could be a number that comes up, and unless you change it, it comes down as a number. What are the other possibilities? The other possibility is that we merge fields, someone said. The other possibility is that we have, someone says, are these new documents a Brady violation? That I don't know. I don't know that there's, well, that's a hard one. Let's see. And I'm not a criminal lawyer. Excuse me. I'm just getting this thing back on here. Excuse me. Because we're going to go on our next field trip, which is to the other wall, where we're going to reason together. And yeah, someone says, could it be closed as a missing person case and reopened as a homicide case? Maybe, but the problem is that the homicide jurisdiction, and I don't quite know exactly how it works, was Baltimore City. So why would it have been opened in Baltimore County? So those are questions we have. Let's see our board, which, that's really a problem, isn't it? Well, maybe, let's see what happens if we do this. No, wait, just a minute. I'm going to change. Work product, not evidence. Well, the problem is that it's a little different. The work product rule, let's see how bad that is. How dark is it? Just a minute. Wait, I'm going to try something else. Let's try this. Wait. Okay, how are we looking now? Is this better? All right, I think that's better. Saved as could invalidate the fields. Maybe it's old case info. And that was one of the things I was thinking, that maybe what happened was they had just, let's say it's like a Word document, and they just used a former one, and then they said save as, and they forgot to change all the fields. That's a real possibility as well. I'm going to put this back a little farther, and we're just going to put some possibilities down. I'm hoping I can kind of aid to the work we're going to need to do here. So, I'm not sure what you're going to see, what you're going to be able to see, but we're going to try this out. So let's put here, we've got Baltimore documents here, and we'll just say we're talking about the form, and we're talking about the form about her computer. So let's say computer form. All right. Okay, why don't we put down the possibilities? So we've got what happened to her computer. Yeah, well, that we don't know either. But let's put down a possibility. Would the first possibility be that it is? Let's just put a legit document that was done by. Let me just see what we even want to call this. Let's just put it's a legit document by the Baltimore County Sheriff's Office. So let's put legit with some errors in it. Okay, so we got legit. We have, what are the other possibilities? The other possibility, would it be completely made up after the fact? Made up. Let's say made, well, let's just say randomly filled in. Someone said randomly filled in. So legit document, too legit to quit, randomly filled in. Yeah, legit, random. That's right. Made up. But let's say legit, purposeful. What am I trying to do here? Well, I'm trying to start us off in a discussion about what's going on with the document that was talked about in the undisclosed episode, the one that showed that there was a search of Hayes' computer. And I think, let's back up a little, because now I'm saying, like, people are coming like, what is he doing? I'm trying something I've never done before. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I'm not sure if you can even see what I have up here. But, well, let's talk about this for a second. Why is this document important? And the document we're talking about is the one that showed that there was a search of Hayes' computer. No, we can't see. Okay, so we're just going to forget about this. We're going to get back to the Kanban board and go back to it, all right, and talk a little, all right? And I do have a special announcement. So this was a mistake. Didn't work out, but we'll just do something else. Here we go. Sorry, I get a 5 o'clock shadow at night. My wife always tells me. So, all right. Okay. Now, back to it. Why is this document important? Is it shows there was a search of Hayes' computer. My guess is here's what I don't think. I don't think that they would dummy up some document to say that there was a search of her computer done if there hadn't been a search of her computer done. It's 1999. You saw the guy spelled out America Online and put AOL with dots after each initial. So I don't think there was like now this expectation that there would be this forensic analysis. So what do I think happened? Well, let's talk about possibilities. Again, I'm having trouble because I'm trying to do this in my mind, and because the crowdsource experiment in that way failed. Well, one is that if there was evidence on the computer, we would have heard it. AOL almost online. Well, we would have heard evidence. Okay, let's go back to the Susan Simpson rule. And it's a good rule of thumb. Yeah, I'm going to have a whiteboard next time. Yeah, we would have heard evidence from, again, assuming there was a search of Hayes' computer, we would have heard evidence from that search if it would have been helpful to the prosecution's case. So that's going to be our rule of thumb, and maybe it's wrong, maybe it's not, but everything we've seen so far, I think, suggests it is right. We didn't. So that leads me to suggest that there's either nothing, or there was something, and it didn't help the prosecution's case. Someone says we can't see your face. Okay, I'm going to turn the light up. Let's see. How's that? Better? All right. They turned over computer calls to Baltimore City and it disappeared. Could be. That's another possibility. But let's talk for a moment about, what are we talking about a moment? I don't pay a whole lot of attention to the date on the documents because police reports are often updated and changed, and maybe that's not so good, but it is what it is. And so I don't put a whole lot of stock in that hard and fast date. And sometimes reports get submitted early and they don't get approved till later. But yeah, where I'm going, I'm getting lost, but where I'm going with Hayes' computer evidence is that if there was a search done and there was something helpful found, and it wouldn't have been helpful to the prosecutor's case, would have presumably been helpful to Adnan's case. And you're right, Rabia, the latest date would be, presumably, Rabia says the latest date would be February 24th, 1999. But let's just be clear for a minute. I'm not getting conspiratorial, but when you have a stamp that are used in these sorts of places in law enforcement, it is a legit stamp. And it's changed very easily. So not that I'm saying anyone would do it, but it's not a matter of there being some sophisticated record, showing that when it's stamped here, it was on that date. It's not a postage meter. So if there's messing around with the dates, it could have been with a stamp too. So I would just say that about the date. But the only place I'm going with I'm finally going to end this. What would be the incentive to backdate? Yeah, I'm not sure what the incentive would be to backdate, except to show that they had done their job in a way that maybe they hadn't. But yeah, I do agree that this way is the more suspicious one. The screening factors at the bottom. Let's just assume for a minute our other possibilities are out. So there there wasn't a mistake or a randomly generated thing, that the bottom of the form had screening factors that weren't there other places, namely the car and the suspect. I mean, the car is bad, but the suspect, that's, well, if it was somehow done on February 8th or whatever, that's pretty bad. And yeah, I don't know. Someone asked, why don't we ask the detective? I don't know about that. But what if, as part of closing the case, the person had been under the impression that they were supposed to put in, these screening factors, that the case was done, it was decided, and it shouldn't have been at that point. So there's things that we want to look into, and what I'll just put them out in points. If you guys are going to look into this, that we want to know what sort of system was used in 1999 for generating these supplements that were done on a computer, because we know some were done by hand, some were done by computer. So we want to know in 1999 what sort of program was used and how it worked. And it's conceivable that someone might even have an example of that electronic document. We could look at it now and see. We want to see how that document worked and what the practice was at the time. And we also want to know what Baltimore County did when there was some sort of supplemental report to be done after a case had officially been transferred, and how that report would be done. So those are the things we want to know, and they'll tell us more, I think, about this document. I think that's about what I want to say about the undisclosed episode. I'm going to have my announcement, and then we'll have question and answer. So this is going to be something fun. This is a case, it's a sad case, and I think all of us want to tread carefully about being too jocular about so much of it, because it's sad. We have someone murdered in a really terrible way. We have, I'm going to give the announcement, but I'm playing up for it, and I'm working up to it. We have someone in prison for life, and we also have lots of attention being paid to other people who weren't really treated as suspects at the time. So it's not really a cause of celebration. But my announcement is something I think we're all going to have fun with, because so many of us have struggled through the way this case was tried at the trial court level in 1999, listening to the way it was tried, specifically from the defense side, and wishing we could hear an example on how it could be done right. So I have an announcement that's connected with that. Now, before we do it, I need to have your agreement, and we got to have a little vote with hearts, okay? So here's the vote. How many people, I have a song picked out, just the beginning of a song picked out for the announcement. How many people want to hear the song? Okay, so do hearts if you want to hear the song at the beginning. Okay, and, well, okay. And then on the count of 3 after this, I'm going to say do hearts if you don't want to hear the song at the beginning. So on the count of 3, if you don't want to hear the song, how do you do hearts? You touch the screen. So on the count of 3, okay, we're going to stop hearts for yes. And on the count of 3, we can start hearts for no. 1, 2, 3. Okay, hearts for no. Oh, it's even. It's even. So I'm going to do the song. I'm going to be the tiebreaker. Okay, are you ready? Part of the song. And it's from 1999. And it's just going to be evocative. All right. This thing will work. It's from 1999. Are you ready? Oh. Huh. Oh, man. I'm just striking out today. So we're not going to have a song. It was going to be Everlast. So here's what's going to happen. Here's another failure. So I just wanted to have a song because it seemed like the way to go. We're going to start doing some cross-examination of Jay Wilds on Periscope. I'm going to start, I think the first day is going to be, November 10th. I think. I'm going to send out a tweet that has a date. And we might do it in some phases. I'm going to do some things for you to be able to interact and get some questions you want answered. So it's probably going to be kind of a chapter format. And what I mean by that is we're going to touch on certain things each time. And yeah, I'm going to do a cross-examination. How am I going to do it? Well, if you look, on YouTube. I did one for Detective McGillivray. No, I'm sorry. Jay's not going to be there. It's a mock cross-examination. I'm going to do a cross-examination, and you're going to say, well, who's going to be your witness? There's not going to be a witness. Why? Because if you do cross-examination right, you don't need a witness. He's just like a lapdog that says yes, 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 no, 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 no. That's how you do cross-examination, not the way Christina Gutierrez did. And again, she's not the only one who does that. So, because you don't do these narrative cross-examinations. So I want to tell you, this is kind of how it's going to look like, okay? And I'm going to even tell you right now what the first time's going to be. It's going to be background. Now, why is background important? Because we need the jury, is she not? How can you see the last one I did? You can go to YouTube, look up Brendan M. Kenny, mock cross-examination of Detective McGillivray, and it will come up. I also did one of Dawn, and I'm not sure if that's dated or whatever. Anyway, so I'm going to get into Jay's background. And what I mean by his background, I'm not going to say, is it not? There's not going to be anything like that. So his background is, what was his motivation that led him to lie about Anon? We know that at trial, Christina Gutierrez said in open court that the sole defense was that Jay did it. That's crazy. That's terrible. We are going to do a cross-examination that's not going to require you to hate Jay or anything. It's just going to show you why he would have done what he did. So we're going to look at Stephanie, the background there, what Stephanie's parents thought about him, all the things he had to lose in life. And we're not even assuming that he's going to go to prison for it. Anyway, so that's the idea. I think it's going to be November 10th. I might be wrong. I'm going to tweet this. You're going to have it, and there's going to be opportunities for you to call in or contact me in some ways. So it's going to be probably, as I said, November 10th, probably about 10 p.m. Maybe we'll do an hour or something like that, and we'll go from there. And I'm going to shred him. Yeah, someone says criminal lawyer. Because what we're doing, here's the thing. You see on the board here, and it's not very good right now, we have what's a Kanban board. Why do we have to wait until November 10th? Because I want to do a good job. It's a mock one, as someone said. So Jay Wilds isn't going to be there. I'm going to do it, but you don't need a witness there for a good cross-examination. You just need the lawyer establishing the key points that are incontrovertible. And what I mean by incontrovertible is either they say yes or no. I will change the date for Rabia. So Rabia, direct message me about when you're available. We'll make sure you're there because you deserve this, and as some sort of catharsis at the very least. They'll say yes or they'll say no, or if they argue with you, they'll look so terrible they can't do it. And we know enough from Jay's performance at trial that he will say yes to. He will say yes. Okay, so we're going to do an example right now off the top of my head. So here's how I'll start. I'll say, I won't even address him by name. I'll start with transition. I'll say, I'm going to ask you some questions about your background. You understand? You grew up fairly close to Woodlawn High School. You've known Anon since junior high. You've never been over to Anon's house. You've never met his parents. He never invited you over to his house. You never wanted to go over to his house. I'm going to ask you some questions about your relationship with Stephanie. You understand? You've been going out with Stephanie since junior high school. You have been very dedicated to Stephanie. Stephanie's very dedicated to you. Her parents have another view. In 1999, they thought you were part of the Woodlawn criminal element. They didn't want Stephanie going out with you. They didn't think you had a future. They didn't think you had direction. They didn't think you had what it takes to be with Stephanie. Something like that. As I said, background, because what we need to do is we need to get the jury to see who Jay Wilds was when he started talking to the police in 1999, so that they weren't put in a position to have to hate him. They weren't in a position to have to adopt a belief about him that didn't fit their reality. Because the thing is the jury empathized with Jay. Many of us, I think, empathize with Jay. And when we're put in a position where we have to believe that he's a murderer for Adnan to be free, that's a tough position to be in. And what we're going to do, and I say we, because I want your involvement, and I'm going to have some ways that you could be involved and come up with some questions and things you really want and some crowdsourcing there. We're going to see that we can humanize Jay. We can see him for who he is. We don't have to dehumanize him. And we can get to the truth. And there might have even, if that had been done at trial, there might have even been moments where Cristina Gutierrez would get the result she wanted, which was for Jay to break down. I could imagine that could even happen. So Dawn Cross, I will repost it. It is on YouTube, on my channel, but I'm going to repost it. You would just look mock cross-examination of Dawn. There's a bit of an introduction. I can't promise how good it was. So, you know, and it wasn't with the real Dawn. This is a mock cross-examination. So I'm gonna explain this. We'll go to Q&A just so you know. There's not going to be a real witness there. There's going to be me, like this, asking questions, and I think you're not going to feel like there's a loss. I haven't done a mock of Jay yet. There's not going to be a loss because you're going to see that I'm just providing building blocks, a structure for the jury to see what's going on, because maybe they have somewhere in their mind all these facts out there, but they don't know how to put it together in a story. And as I was saying yesterday, they had a story from the prosecution, they didn't have one from the defense. And when you're the defense in a criminal case, I'm not a criminal lawyer, but you know, I know that, and you can't realistically have your client on the stand. You need to prove some of these things through cross-examination, and that's why criminal lawyers are oftentimes the best cross-examiners. And anyway, I don't know that the cross-examination I did of Dawn was with the newest information. It really wasn't. It was just taking the crime reports. And the only thing I was trying to do then, because I didn't know then what I knew now, was to show to the jury that the police took a different view of Dawn than they took of Adnan. So there was this rush to judgment. How am I showing this rush to judgment? Not by saying to the jury, oh, these cops over here who are sitting there in their nice suits and their American flag, who seem so honest, are really terrible people. Take my word for it, they're awful. I just show it by getting Dawn to say what happened to him. You know, they didn't call you, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, they didn't pursue other things. And that was the gist of the cross-examination. So the jury can think, well, wait, but they did all that stuff with Adnan. What's going on now? So that's the idea. Okay. Well, let's just go to question and answer. So did the judge call Cristina Gutierrez a liar in front of the jury? No. The judge said that she thought she wasn't being truthful, and the jury somehow overheard it. And so someone on the jury overheard it and thought that's what was happening. And probably the judge, as Susan Simpson pointed out, was just full of incredulity that anyone could agree to admit an exhibit as important as the subscriber reports without knowing what they were. And as Colin Miller talked about it, okay, so Robbie said he called her a liar. I guess that's fair to say. He did think that she was not being truthful. So the jury maybe was right. Anyway, yeah, and Colin Miller talked about as the professor, there's a string of stipulations to evidence in this case that makes no sense. Yes, the whole case is nuts. And I'll say, funny Robbie says that, because I just talked to a man I really admire who's a great product liability defense lawyer, and I really got a lot out of it. And he was saying he was following along in this and thought the same thing, that this case is nuts on both sides. Someone says, was a liar and asshole comment made on tape? I don't know about that, but yeah, it sounds like it was okay. It's on tape. All right, so we'll just keep talking because you guys are talking back and forth, and I'll kind of chime in. We're still trying to figure out how to work this whole Periscope thing. What judge does that in front of a jury? One who dislikes the attorney. Well, first of all, judges it wasn't exactly in front of the asshole part maybe was, but the thing about Cristina Gutierrez wasn't exactly in front of the jury because they had, I think, these white noise machines that they often use in cases when there's these sidebars. They have these white noise machines. And so the idea is that the jury wasn't thinking about that. And someone said, judges say, well, okay, just think about this for a minute if you're a judge. This is in state court, but in federal court in particular, in my experience, because judges are appointed for life, they kind of feel like they can say a lot of times whatever they want, and even in state court, though, that's the case as well. Sometimes they can be. Do as they say, not as they do, and they can get kind of crotchety and get mad. And I can imagine this in a case like this. And Rabia can tell me, but I don't know if it was the first trial or the second trial. There was a very small courtroom, so I can imagine it was full of people and it was hot. You have to consider all that stuff. And when that goes on, tempers can flare. So get the judge. I'm not sure what to make of it. I wasn't there, but not a lot of people. Rabia said, okay. But I know, as I understand, for a time it was a small one. People sick of Gutierrez. Yeah, probably on. Rabia just said the room was full of people sick of Gutierrez on all sides. Someone said, are there no partners who won't come forward to say what was going on in Cristina Gutierrez's mind? Well, okay. Can I give a personal experience of being a lawyer, the way things seem to work? And without getting political or anything like that, I just want to give a little background. Lawyers have bars to entry that some other professions don't. So if I don't have a law license, don't pass a moral character test, etc., I can't get in front of a court and argue anything. I just can't do it. So there's certain bars to entry, and those bars to entry act to exclude people who otherwise could. So you couldn't have someone come in who's maybe the most eloquent, smartest person in the world, who's an immigrant, from another country, who's not admitted to any bar, and you say, hey, I'm a criminal defendant, I want to have them represent me. They can't do it. So there's these bars to entry, and then within the field, there's the economics of it work in an odd way. So all of this is to say that there aren't necessarily metrics that are used in law very well to show success and performance and judge failure and judge people who are good and people who aren't good. There's a real movement to be done to do that, which I'm all in favor of. I actually had a meeting today with a client where they're doing that, and I was pleased as punch. I just felt like I've been waiting my whole professional life for this, that people are coming up with a project management system. So all this is to say that Cristina Gutierrez could have a reputation for being the best lawyer in the world, and she could have been good, she could have done good things. Doesn't mean she was really great ever. And I don't want to speak ill of the dead. And I just say that, growing up, my dad's a lawyer, and he would always say, these people who were put up on pedestals as these great lawyers, he's still alive, so I'm not criticizing you if you're watching this, F. Lee Bailey, but you should have had a better result in the Patty Hearst case. So if you know about the case, F. Lee Bailey, who was also involved in the O.J. Simpson trial, represented Patty Hearst. She had been kidnapped by Siboney's, I think I'm saying it wrong, Liberation Front, supposedly was involved in it, and he defended her and didn't do a very good job. And I don't think he did a really great job in the O.J. Simpson case, but he had this reputation of being great. And just a few years ago, I heard him on an American Bar Association podcast talking about a book he did on cross-examination. I'm not saying he's a bad lawyer. I wouldn't buy his book on cross-examination. I'd buy it from someone who's like the best at it. But is there really a knowledge in the field of who's really good and who really isn't, and who deserves a great reputation and who doesn't? I don't think so. All right. So I'm answering that. Someone asked what this was all about if you came on here late. I'm Brendan Kenny. I'm a lawyer in the Twin Cities. I'm on Twitter, Kenny, Kenny, Brendan, Kenny, Brendan. And I'm talking about the Undisclosed podcast. And we're now in question and answer period. So please, if you're watching this and I seem all over the place, I'm not always this all over the place, although I am some way. So I'm just answering questions, and I was talking about the case. Someone said win-loss record isn't used. So I just was saying that win-loss record can be a tough one. Think about it for prosecutors, right? They don't try cases that they aren't going to win, right? And you can do the same thing on the civil side. You can just settle cases that you're going to lose. And sometimes your clients are none the wiser, even if they're Fortune 500 companies. I'm not trying to get out there. I just what I've seen, and I'm confident saying that because the firm I work at is not like that at all. But I think we're not the norm. We're the exception. Anyway, that's my take. So point is there are some fields based on barriers to entry, regulations, other things that serve to minimize competition. I think that's fair to say. And law is one of them. What kind of lawyer am I? I'm a civil defense lawyer, meaning I don't do criminal law. I represent primarily Fortune 500 companies in mass torts, class actions, and product liability cases. So that's, and some other stuff too. So yeah, you'd think on the defense side involving someone saying, why am I involved in this? Well, because I care about the justice system, whether it's criminal or civil. And we should all care about the justice system, because if we don't have a system that allows us to put the best arguments on both sides forward and come up with a good result, well, we should all just kind of, give up, right? What's the point of having a justice system if you don't get justice? And Adnan Syed didn't in this case, and I'm interested not only in that, but in what can be done for it not to happen again. All right. Any other questions? Anything else anyone wants to talk about? I know this is a little different. I tried some stuff. Most of the stuff I tried this time failed, but I think I can come up with a way. This theory of who did it thing, I don't feel too comfortable doing that, because I don't think my job is to really decide on that. I will say that the evidence has been treading, toward pointing at Don, and I do think Jim Clementi's profile was useful in going back and saying, look, there's going to be a few likely suspects, and Adnan and Don would be the most likely ones. And Bob on Truth and Justice podcast did a great idea showing why Adnan wasn't the guy. Now, there could have been a lot of things that are going on, but that's kind of where things look, and we'll see how things play out. And I know Undisclosed has a lot more to tell us, and Truth and Justice as well. Dawn was Hayes' boyfriend at the time she died. All right. Anything else? Implications of Adnan being 17, not 18 is presented. More sketchiness. Okay, here's another rule of thumb. And I should have said earlier, when we talk about documents that seem wrong, mistakes that were made by the state, we talked about Susan Simpson's rule that if evidence wasn't used by the prosecution in the first trial, it probably wouldn't help the prosecution's case. Fair rule. The other rule, I think, is that I'm trying to think of some document, some piece of evidence, some scintilla of evidence that's come up since Serial and Undisclosed that actually cuts against Adnan. I can't think of one. So what does that suggest to me? That when we have missing evidence, when we have evidence that comes in some weird form or shows up late or something like that, the likelihood somewhere along the way is that there's some intention going on. Because if it was just people being incompetent or not knowing what they're doing or making honest mistakes, one would think some of the honest mistakes would cut Adnan's way. And yet these honest mistakes all may be unintentional, but why is it that they always aid the prosecution's case? Someone said, Balal, your thoughts. My thoughts are that, there was a deal with Balal, and he got out of something by the state in return for disappearing. I mean, I think that's almost beyond argument. Can we get info from the Baltimore PD without politely requesting it? How? Well, the way you get information typically is by a public records request, and I forget what they're called in Maryland Public Information Act or something like that. And I do them quite often in my line of work because I've done environmental work, and a lot of times there's very useful information about other companies and other things getting on that you can ask for and get from other companies. So how come MPI requests come up with different docs to different people? I don't know for sure about that. I know in the dark recesses of Reddit where it's like the underground in Mordor, where there's all sorts of things going on there. There's people who claim to have gotten stuff through Maryland Public Information requests, and I haven't been convinced that that's actually how they got them. What I mean is, and there are some problems when you don't respond to public records requests, but they're pretty rare. There's agencies that haven't responded to public records requests in 4 years. And so I think sometimes we have people who come upon records through other means, and again, these are people on the other side of the case who are advocating for Adnan's guilt, and they can get them all sorts of different ways, and it's not too difficult to create a cover letter or something that suggests you get it through good ways. One thing that if you look at some of the documents that the law enforcement has done that have come out through public records requests, when you look at kind of ways of getting evidence and getting it right, is one thing is that you find the evidence, maybe you get it in a way that's not constitutional or not proper, and you figure a way to package the evidence in the right way so you can get it in. So there might be something that's been going on like that in this case with these other documents that people are saying they got through public records. That might be that there's these documents and people with another agenda in this case other than Adnan's, Syed's getting a fair trial could be releasing documents. And someone says about Reddit, I am too. There are some places on Reddit where it's a good place and there's good things happening, and there's some places where they're not. So I don't know if we can just condemn Reddit, but I have in the past, but I've been involved enough to know that there's a lot of good work going on. All right, anything else anyone has before I get out of here? Well, thank you so much. Bob hates Reddit. Well, Bob hates some of the things that people do on Reddit, which are reprehensible. All right, we're talking about case files. Case files, how long you have to keep it, depend on the retention schedules that the state has. And so I don't know what those are. And there's lots of factors that go into them. All right, well, I'm going to sign out right now. Thank you so much. Thank you for bearing with me. This was a little bit clunky, but we're just going to keep going, and hopefully we're learning. And please, any constructive criticism I'd love from you. You can, again, find me on Twitter at KENNYBRENDAN. That's probably the best way to reach me. I'm going to come up with some other ways to reach me, especially about this J mock cross-examination project, but and I'll get in once I hear from Rabia the time she's allowed. I will make sure I do it on that day. Someone said they just jumped in. This is going to be available recording. You can get it via recording through Catch. It's going to go to my Twitter feed, and I'm also going to hopefully get it on YouTube, and you'll be able to get it there. So anyway, I'm out of here. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Sleep tight. And I'll see you soon.